Time travel is still a story of the future, so we can't yet go back to the past to see what life used to be like. Historical lessons at school, movies, novels and relics allow most of us to imagine Napoleon or Cleopatra's era to some extent. But what about before humans existed? What were things like back then? If that's what you're wondering, stay with me because I'm gonna walk you through 4.6 billion years of our planet in just a few minutes. Earliest days of our planet. 4.6 billion years ago, Gaia, Terra, Blue Planet or any terms referring to the Earth simply didn't even exist. The solar system wasn't even a thing. There was just a newly formed proto-sun, together with a ring of gas and dust. Gravity slowly gathered this gas and dust together and formed clumps that later became asteroids and small planets called planetesimals. This process took millions of years, and scientists have estimated that our Earth became an existent thing around 4 billion and 540 million years ago. However, it wasn't home to anyone or anything. The conditions back then were brutal for anything to survive. There was no ozone layer, and the surface temperature was about 4,700 degrees Celsius. Fast forward to several million years later, our neighbor Moon came to existence. Back then, the Earth rotated much faster than it does today, so a day during that time only lasted for about 6 hours. Luckily, humans were then far from beginning, because I just can't imagine how our ancestors would have conquered the whole planet if day and night switched that quickly. From 4 billion and 100 million to 3 billion 800 million years ago, a huge amount of space visitors came to our home in the form of asteroids. At this time, there could already be an ocean. That's what's suggested by some scientists. However, the temperature was still too high, so this might be just an incorrect guess. But anyways, the asteroids were the reason why water ended up covering the Earth's surface. Recently, scientists have found evidence to claim that half of Earth's water came from asteroids that were brought here by collision. Starting from 3 billion 800 million years ago, which was the end of the last heavy bombardment, the temperature of Terra slowly decreased. But that wasn't enough for life to begin. Photosynthesis wasn't possible as there was no oxygen, and no oxygen means no ozone layer. What does no ozone layer mean? It means ultraviolet radiation would have destroyed any living thing on Earth if they had existed back then. So the question is, when did the first life forms come to existence? Well, researchers haven't been able to pinpoint an exact moment, but they have discovered fossils that are approximately 3 million to 500 million years of age. They also haven't been able to tell us since when exactly did Earth have an ocean, but they're certain that 3 billion 200 million to 2 billion 800 million years ago, a giant but shallow ocean completely covered the surface of Earth. The temperature was between 55 to 88 degrees Celsius, still far too high for us modern humans to survive. But that was enough for microorganisms. They were able to make the burning hot water their home. At this time, there weren't 7 continents. There was just volcanic islands growing even more slowly than a snail crawling. Imagine this planet is just something of an alien kid created during his spare time. It must have killed him to sit and observe the events taking place throughout this extremely long period, just to find out there was not much happening. It took roughly 300 million years more for Kenor land out of our first supercontinent to begin to form. After that, there was a period of 1 billion years in which Terra's creator was too lazy to interfere with its transformation. So, what happened 1 billion 500 million years ago? Well, by then, Earth had taken a longer span to complete a rotation. A day lasted at least 16 hours, while complex organisms were still yet to appear. Lithospheric plates kept moving, and finally Rodinia, the second supercontinent, was formed. After Rodinia, then there came Pangaea, the final supercontinent according to geology. Snowball era. Around 650 million years ago, Terra entered the Snowball era. The name already says it all. The Snowball era was when the Earth was entirely frozen. Many scientists advocate for the theory that our planet was once a literal giant snowball, as it helped explain enigmatic features in the geological record. Back then, the equator was as cold as current Antarctica. I don't think I need to describe to you how freezing it was in the poles. However, there was an interesting world under the frozen surface. The temperature there was fairly high, as the perseverant volcanoes refused to be destroyed even under thick ice layers. Over time, as they kept erupting, carbon dioxide accumulated in the atmosphere and melted the glaciers. For those who haven't reached chemistry age at school or have completely forgotten, the breakdown of water results in oxygen. So, as glaciers were melting down, they released huge amounts of oxygen into the atmosphere. This marked a new beginning for Earth. Around 541 million years ago, the Cambrian explosion, or Cambrian diversification, occurred and lasted for around 13 to 25 million years. A record concentration of oxygen, together with temperatures reaching 30 degrees Celsius, enabled numerous life forms to appear. Overall, the Cambrian explosion is like a biological Big Bang, for it resulted in the birth of almost every existing species. And there's more. The span of a full day during Cambrian was 22 hours, very close to a day in our current world. Fast forward a little bit to 450 million years ago. The blue planet already had some green, as plants were conquering the terrace. Arthropods, the invertebrate animals with an exoskeleton, a segmented body, and paired jointed appendages, also started to expand their territory. After another 150 million years, the first insect said, "Hello world, a quite crowded society already, isn't it?" Okay, there was land, there were plants, there were animals. Does that mean the Snowball era had come to an end? Yes, but don't rush. Our planet still wasn't what it is now. After the Snowball thing, it was a swamp Earth. Swamp Earth. Many scientists believe that by 300 million years ago, swamps had replaced glaciers to cover the majority of Earth's surface. However, ancient swamps bore significant differences to the ones we see today. Plants and animals were, in one word, gigantic. If we could simply get on a time machine to visit that era, we'd definitely be startled by 100 feet plants and giant insects flying overhead. Oxygen made up 31 to 35% of the air. That means the respiratory systems of these archaic insects could be smaller and still deliver enough oxygen to meet their demands, allowing those creatures to grow much larger than their descendants in the modern world, in which only 21% of the air is oxygen. Are you wondering about those literal giants or just stories of the past? Well, they were inhabiting everywhere until 252 million years ago, when the Permian-Triassic extinction took place. Scientists have agreed that eruptions were in most likely cause. Lava became the new covering liquid. The air was just ash and carbon dioxide instead of oxygen. Plus, there was very little sunlight, preventing photosynthesis from happening. To be honest, I don't think we can survive in such environments, even with all the advanced technologies. putting an end to 57% of biological families, 83% of genera, 81% of marine species, and 70% of terrestrial vertebrate species. It was undoubtedly the most brutal known mass extinction. Then, 245 million years ago, dinosaurs became the next landowners. 175 million years ago, a rift opened up within the supercontinent called Pangaea. New crust formed along the underwater mid-Atlantic ridge. This caused the Pangaea to break up and form the Atlantic and other oceans. The world finally started to look like what it is today. Land was also occupied by pine trees, praying mantises, and bees. 65 million years ago, the domination of terrible lizards came to an end. 50 million years ago, mammals began sitting on the throne of terrestrial animals. They had existed before but had to keep a low profile until the demise of dinosaurs. Temperatures reached 24 degrees Celsius and stayed quite stable at that level. Plus, the Earth had also rotated more slowly, taking nearly 24 hours to do a full 360 degrees. About 8 to 4 million years ago, our ancestors and those of modern apes separated. This split was so essential. Had it not happened, we would just be apes right now and probably wouldn't be here discussing evolution. Around 4 million years ago, another huge climate change occurred, turning forests into savannas. Therefore, our ancestors were driven to climb down the trees, standing on two limbs, embarking on a food quest, and eventually started civilizations. Stone tools were invented 3.4 to 3.7 million years ago. Fire, as recent evidence shows, has been utilized for nearly 800,000 years. And so it went. 1,400,000 years ago, Homo erectus was present in Eurasia. 300,000 years ago, our ancestors, Homo sapiens, took their turn to take over the planet. And the rest of history. We went from hunting to growing, from taking pride in creating wheels to cover the world with GPS. That proves why it was Homo sapiens who survived, rather than Homo habilis and Homo erectus. We survive and we evolve, all of which is thanks to our superior intelligence. Okay guys, I walked you through the entire history of our planet, starting from its very first days, and it's not even 15 minutes yet. Compared to 4.6 billion years of development, that's way quicker than the blink of an eye. You probably haven't even finished breakfast. What's on your mind after watching this video? Are you pondering which historical event will happen next? How far can we evolve? Will there be another extinction? Drop your ideas in the comments below. If you like the video, don't leave without giving it a thumbs up. It would mean a lot to our dedicated team members. And please subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. And hit the bell button to never miss a new video about science and mysteries. Until next time, guys.